Neville teaches us that when we're trying to get out of a negative state or a state that we no longer want to experience, the best way to do that is through the practice of indifference. Now, indifference is a tricky one because you can't force yourself to not think about something. The act of doing so is inadvertently causing you to think about that thing, right? So indifference has nothing to do with getting your attention off of something so much as it has to do with getting your attention onto something. Focused attention is one-pointedness. You cannot serve two masters, like Jesus tells us in the Gospel of Matthew. So to demonstrate what indifference looks like in a practical sense, I want to use a principle from thermodynamics called entropy. For those of you who don't know, entropy relates to the degree of randomness or chaos within a system. Now let's take a case from physics to demonstrate what this looks like. Let's use the double slit experiment. This experiment, for those of you who don't know, demonstrated that when electrons were fired at a screen, their behavior changed depending on whether or not they were being observed. If they were being observed, they behaved as individual particles that were following a linear trajectory. However, if they were not being observed, they functioned as a wave function. Now remember, entropy has to do with the degree of randomness or chaos within a system. I find it interesting that when the particles were being observed, they behaved with less entropy and functioned in a more focused, linear, predictable manner. However, when they were not being observed, when there was no conscious awareness fixated on them, the degree of entropy increased and they began to behave in a more chaotic, less linear fashion. Now, let's take these ideas and relate them to the practice of manifesting in a practical way that anybody can do. Take a desire that you have. When you give fixed conscious attention to that desire, you are simply by the act of doing so reducing entropy in the direction of that thing. You will then see that quality begin to behave in a more linear and orderly fashion in your life and come into a more predictable form of expression. Now, indifference, on the other hand, causes us to take attention off of something. And when we take our attention off of something, entropy towards that thing starts to increase. It will start to dissolute and behave in a less orderly and apparent fashion in your life. This is why Neville talks about starving the things we don't want and feeding the things that we do want. Now, what I would encourage you to do is take a desire that you have and begin to direct more conscious, focused attention towards that thing. Don't add any strain to it. Don't try to force anything to happen, and don't even get hung up on manifesting that thing. I would encourage you to just experiment with directing focused attention towards that thing without any end result in mind. Just focus on that thing. Watch as the entropy in the direction of that thing will start to reduce, and you'll start to notice that thing demonstrate itself in your life in a more orderly and linear fashion. Consider for a moment the character quality of kindness. Now, without intending to be more kind of a person, let's say that you, for an experiment, decide to just contemplate the idea of kindness over a period of time. Let's say you take 2 weeks, and over the course of that 2 weeks, every day, you, a couple times a day, just allow your conscious attention to focus on acts of kindness around the world, without even intending consciously to be kind yourself. Just put your focused conscious attention on the awareness of kindness being demonstrated around the world. You will find that after just a couple weeks of doing this, you will start to exhibit that quality of kindness in your own life without even trying to be more kind. Simply by directing your focused attention towards that quality, you will reduce entropy in the system relating to that quality, and you will then begin to see it function and demonstrate itself in a more linear and orderly way in your own life. Now, this experiment can be done with any quality that you would like to demonstrate in your life, whether it's the quality of companionship, the quality of wealth, etc., by simply taking a quality that you are interested in and focusing your conscious attention on it, not constantly, don't obsess over it, don't ruminate over it, but just take a few times throughout the day over the course of a few weeks and just allow your conscious attention of that quality to be magnified. If you have a hard time imagining yourself wealthy, then just take a few examples of good demonstrated wealth and focus on them over the next few weeks. Let's say every day, a few times a day, you just find a few articles of people becoming wealthy around the world. People become millionaires every day. So what I would recommend is over the course of a few weeks, Just educate yourself on cases of people becoming wealthy. Don't even relate it to yourself, but just focus on those cases. And if thinking about those cases allows you to feel some sort of positive or pleasurable emotion, that's good. Do that over the course of a few weeks. I would predict that you would begin to see the quality of wealth begin to express itself in your own life in a more predictable and orderly fashion.